Welcome back to the garage, guys. I'm Damian, and this is the Binder Builder. And this is recap number 4. This is where I condense all the long form videos that I did as I built my light bar and condense it all down to a single video that covers everything from start to finish. As always, if you want to take a deep dive into the building of the light bar, including all the hiccups and so forth that I went through, feel free to take a look at the long form videos, which are linked in the video description. But other than that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get building this light bar. Alright, today we're figuring out our off-road light setup, and this is what we're going to do. To get an idea of how much room I had to work with, I cut and placed a 2x4 on the roof. Initially I went to the body line, but after some consideration, I remeasured to the rain gutters and got about 44 inches. After that, I drew out some circles which represent my lights out of construction paper. Then I marked off the desired width on the table and toyed with possible light configurations. Initially I thought of a dog bone kind of setup with the centers of the lights all lined up, but then I reconsidered that, choosing to line the lights up to one edge. What I was thinking about doing is building a bar that comes straight up out of the bottom bar. Carry the tubes right around the nines, and then instead of doing a 90 and just connecting it, keep it coming and then do like 45 or whatever. So make a bar, comes out and then wraps around like so, flat bar on the top, all the mounting tabs. With that plan in mind, I marked the spacing on the 2x4, got some tape, and taped the circles on to get a visual of the layout. Alright, let's take a look, see what it's going to look like. Surprise! The alignment of the lights are going to favor the top, not the bottom of the light bar. Here's my thought. I was going to put a sun visor down there anyway, so why not use the lights? And now you know why I want to make it go up and then down. That makes sense to me, so that's the plan. Besides, I want the bug to have a slick, streamlined look, so lowering the light bar to a lower position eliminates it from becoming like a visual wall on my roof. Not sure if I've seen anyone have this light set up before, but we'll see how it works. Before I went too far in, I double-checked the lights against the cutouts to make sure my placeholders were accurate. And after measuring the glass again, I started on the bar. First things first, I bent the 1¼ tube to 180 degrees. And this is where I ran into a major snag. So I'm making the light bar for the top of the bug. When I was figuring out what die I wanted, I actually drew it out. And if you take a look at this, that's about the distance it was supposed to be. But that's a freaking monster gap. I'm not okay with it. I must have misread something, but I thought the 6.5 bend radius would give about a 1/2 inch gap. Again, it's like an 2 inch gap. I only wanted like a 1/2 inch. But I ended up with a 1.5 inch gap. Not good. If I could tighten up this bend by cutting and then just like using a ratchet strap or something just to pull it in, that might be the way to do this. Not wanting to buy another bending die, I started scheming. After marking the bend every 1 inch, I cut the slots and gave it a go. It definitely tightened the bend. It seemed a little too tight, so I opened up the bend, back up, and tack welded it using the template to make sure I got the right curve. Then after welding the slices up and grinding them smooth, I held the light up to the new curve to evaluate if it was feasible. It was. And since the tube was already messed up, I went ahead and bent the other side, this time using a slice every 2 inches. I just cut all it up at 2-inch intervals and then bent it into a tighter turn. See what happens. All right, I like it. Now it's time to build the real one. So I got another piece of tube out and marked it. Then I bent it, cut the slides, again every 2 inches, then pushed the tube, tightening the radius, and after making sure it would work, I tack welded the tube in place. So I did what I said I was going to do, basically bent them up, Then I cut a slice every 2 inches. Bent that up. I'm using these. It's not going to stay this way. It would be kind of cool. Looks like kind of like a stormtrooper at that point. This is good. So I am going to go ahead and start welding up these. Actually, let's do something real quick. I got out the light and to see how it lines up. I only got a couple hands there available. There we go. Look at that. That will do. I'm actually pleased with that. Yeah. That's good stuff, man. All right, well, let's keep going. With about a 1/4 inch gap, I welded the slices up and grabbed another tube to create the inner part of the bar. Here I'm checking the spacing for the 5-inch center lights. The plan is to graft this bar into the bigger bar, weld everything up, and make it look like it's one flowing piece of tube. And after some careful measurements and a second 45, that gives me 5.5 inches. That gives me the same 1/4 inch that I have around this light across here on these lights. But like I said, that's going to go on like so. I clamped the bar to the table, made the cuts, and started the graft. Once welded, I started grinding. Then I remembered a file trick from Morgan Clark. I believe it was in his Fab Diaries. So I tried that. It worked awesome. See how this came out, shall we? I couldn't help myself, so I held it up to the bug to see how well it worked out. I'm very pleased. With the base bar built, it's time to mount some lights. So I brought out the 9s and started measuring their mounting base, marking out the needed platform on some flat plate. Then I broke out the 5s and got test fitting those as well. After cutting out the plates and drilling them out, I test fitted the lights in the bar. And once everything was lined up, I welded them in. Oh, I used some small triangles to support the mounting plates for bumps and stuff. With the mounts in place, I bolted the 9s in and took a look. Nice. Now it's time for the 5s. These are much easier to do. I simply pulled out some 1/8 inch flat bar and cut the necessary length out of that. And after marking and drilling out the mounting holes, I bolted the lights on and mocked them up. And right about there. What do you guys think? It's just a sneak peek at the moment. In the end, I had to space the holes a little better to get a uniform spacing between all the lights. And after that, I welded everything up. And that's where I ran into a very big issue that I should have saw coming, but meh. So the big thing is how to mount the light bar on the bug. I have to bring it down and forward just a skosh because of this right here. Okay, so that's basically that's a lot. Not happy about that, but 4.5 inches. Dang, bro, that is huge. Lots of stuff to think about. We'll see what happens, and we'll go with that. The next morning, I mocked up the light bar. I know it's way too low, but it doesn't need to be higher to see the problem. As you can see, unless I run without a windshield, those lower mounts for the 9s are not going to work. So I did what I felt I had to do. Cut off the 9-inch mounts and reposition them on the top of the bar. After cleaning things up, I started welding the mounts to the top of the bar. This may have been a pain, but it's going to work. So I brought out the lights and for fun, mounted everything up. Now there's a whole video on just the lights and testing them, and whew, these suckers are bright. Check out that video in the description, but here's a sneak peek. Now we're gonna do this tonight, but there we go, guys. Ready? There you go. Oh, that's bright. Oh yeah, that's real bright. Notice that there's no lights on down the street, so see how clearly you can see this house a quarter mile away. Looks like the lights are on, doesn't it? Good gravy. I'm going to zoom in on that. That's crazy. Okay. Seriously, these lights are super bright and I'm super pleased. If you want to know how bright they actually are, go ahead and check out that video. But as for now, let's get back to mounting this thing up. I'm a visual guy, so I like to draw things out. So I went online to see how others have mounted their light bars. Initially, I favored the smaller mount, but I favored using tube. I'm not sure, maybe it was the Ginsberg Fabrication buggy that put this idea in mind, but I did want to do something similar to what he did, and decided it was the direction I wanted to go. So starting off, I built a wood cradle to hang the light bar. This would allow me to position it where I wanted, as well as the height that I wanted. Then I got some tube and put in some 60-degree bends to match the windshield slope. But while holding it up, I noticed that while it matched the windshield, the straight bar didn't match the natural shape of the bug at all. I was still going to use some tube, but I was going to lose the straight part and try to match the body lines of the bug. To do it, I'm going to use the same type of rolling I did with the halo cage. Alright, let me show you what I'm doing. Bend these up, basically marked it every couple of inches, some every 4 inches, and then as I got to the tighter bend, I wanted it to be more smooth, so I did every 2 inches. Right in there somewhere. I'm going to space it up off. It's not perfect, but it'll do. With it close enough, I used painter's tape to hold it in place, because for some reason it kept wanting to slide forward. Then after putting the light bar up, I took the bars I initially bent and then held them up as the bars to mount the lights off of. Alright guys, just doing some work, just figuring out my light mount. My initial thought was, and this is going to stand up like that, my initial thought was to go up right here, right? And then I started thinking about it, and I started playing with this a little bit, and then I did this. And frankly, I think that looks a lot better. The question is how to attach it, right? And I want to make it so I can aim it up and down or back and forth, you know, aiming the lights up and down by moving the entire bar. Needed to get like a pivot thing. With that in mind, I ordered some things from Rough Stuff. So I got baby Heims. Let me show you how this is going to work. Shoop, see? Shoop. Shoop. Basically putting these 2 trick tabs facing inward to cup the Heim, right? Just like that. These are for 1.25" tube, and it has 2 little wings, like so, right? So yeah, literally, just like that. Little jam nut. Presto requesto. And this will push the top of the light bar out and in, and that will eventually make it point up or down. So after marking the center, I mounted the lights up, using painter's tape to protect it from welding. And then welded the tabs in place. The next step was to create a crossbar that would connect the 2 side tubes. So with measurements made, I started bending the tube just like I did the crossbars of the halo cage. Things were looking good. So after notching them by hand, I fitted it and tacked it in place. Then I pulled the whole thing down to weld it solid. Then after throwing it back up there, I hung the bar back in place so I could finish the standoffs for the cradle. And once things were centered, I used the small tubes to attach the light bar to the cradle. Now these small tubes are just some 1.25" with some bends. Then I trimmed and coped it to fit the bend of the cradle. The The cool thing is that the welded bungs actually fit inside the 1¼ inch tube. And after inserting the baby heims, the light bar was once again put on the cradle. Oh yeah, I attached the center tabs too. Then the whole structure was put in place. I took time to make sure that everything was centered, level, and even side to side. And satisfied that everything was set, it was welded. Here it is, back in place. Obviously did the forward on the, instead I was planning initially to go up to this point and put it, but as I swung that down, it might have contacted the tabs, and this looks, honestly, I think that looks way better, to be honest with you. So I'm glad I did it that way. It'll be, it'll go up and down. I'm going to get an actuator to mount on that. Do the bar right there in the center. It's going to go straight to there. That will aim it for me while I'm in the cab. Anyway, so what's next? I need to make mounts for this. So that's what today I'm going to start doing. So how to mount this thing has completely eluded me thus far. But eventually I grabbed some 2x4 and cut 1-inch spacers to hold the light bar and cradle off the bug. All right, I spaced it up 1 inch, but I have to wonder, is it too much? Yes, it was too much. So I tried a 1/2 inch. This was kind of a eureka moment for me. There's a 1/2 inch. That looks a little better. It's a little closer, yes, but it's a little more streamlined. Close to the body, doesn't protrude too high. While I was up there looking at the roof and taking measurements, I noticed that the 1-inch pieces resembled some box tube I have sitting on the ground. So I grabbed some construction paper and started trimming it to the shape of the roof. Then I transferred that onto some box tube and cut it out. The result? Perfectly fitting standoffs. So I marked and cut out a bunch more. Don't mind this first one, it was just an idea that I had, but the rest of them are definitely going to work. So after spacing them about 8 inches apart, I mounted 3 standoffs per side. I'll be honest, if I had a TIG, I'd be tempted to weld the cradle directly to the roof. But since I don't, I started making mounting plates for them. In order to match the curve of the roof, I used the rubber mallet to bend the plates. Then, with everything held in place with painter's tape, I tack welded everything on. And again, pulled it off to final weld it. This time I cleaned things up with a sanding disc. The only thing left to do now is clean things up. So I finished off the ends of the cradle by cutting 45s into them. As for the forward tubes, I shortened them and put 45-degree angles in them too. Then everything got plated shut. One last cleanup with the sander and flapper wheel. Yeah. Looks pretty good so far. With that, I assembled the light bar and stuck it on the roof. I gotta be honest, it came out way better than I hoped for. Definitely check out some of those long format videos for more details, pictures, and the finished product. Well guys, that's it for recap number 4. Again, all of the long format videos are in the video description, as well as an extra video of me and my kids testing out the lights and see how far they shoot. That was a lot of fun. But that's all I have for this video. So please like, subscribe, and tell me, do you think I went a little bit too far, or should I stick more to the KISS principle? You know, the keep it simple, stupid principle. Anyway, let me know, and I will see you guys on the next one. I'm Damian, and this is the Binder Builder.